Now at 6, there's a new deputy director at the Atlanta-based Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Dr. Ralph Abraham has a background as a doctor, a pharmacist, and even a gubernatorial candidate in Louisiana.
But he is also a noted vaccine skeptic. A political reporter, Doug Reardon, is at the CDC tonight after sitting down with them earlier today.
Yeah, and when we asked Dr. Ralph Abraham about some recent controversial changes made to America's vaccine schedule, he said it was less about the effectiveness of the vaccines and more about giving more power to patients. Others in the medical community are skeptical.
We've got to rebuild that trust. How do you do that? Transparency.
Dr. Ralph Abraham, in the first few weeks of his tenure as the CDC's new deputy director, says he wants to restore trust in the agency that's become highly politicized in recent months. After a series of mass layoffs, a deadly shooting this summer, and some major overhauls to the country's vaccine schedule, Abraham knows he has his work cut out for him.
Without public trust, you cannot have public health.
Dr. Abraham is a physician, a veterinarian, ran a pharmacy, and also ran for governor of Louisiana in 2019 after serving as the state surgeon general. He also served Louisiana in Congress for 6 years. In our sit-down, Dr. Abraham defended the recent reshuffling of America's vaccine recommendations. Late last year, a CDC board changed decades of precedent recommending the hepatitis B vaccine on a case-by-case basis.
Anybody in America can get any vaccine that has been previously recommended. Nothing is off the table. That's up to that shared decision-making.
The change prompted a recent lawsuit against the CDC from groups like the American Academy of Physicians and American College of Pediatrics. Former and current employees of the CDC privately expressed concern to Atlanta News First over Abraham's hiring, namely due to his skepticism over the COVID-19 vaccine. But Abraham wants to move past it and focus on what he says is his #1 priority at the CDC, American obesity.
We've got some great drugs now that are helping with this, but again, we have to have the lifestyle modification, the changes that can be sustained for life term.
And Dr. Abraham said he also wants to conduct more clinical trials to test the theory of Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. that some vaccines and even Tylenol in pregnant mothers can lead to autism. At the CDC, Doug Reardon, Atlanta News First.